Good evening, folks. Welcome back to the Celtic Way. I am your host, John McGinley. I'm joined by Tony Haggerty. We're here to discuss Celtic's match against Al-Ahli at the Como Cup, Celtic's final match of pre-season. It was a 1-1 draw after 90 minutes. Then there was a little pointless penalty shootout, shall we say, that Celtic just edged. And so Celtic were winners, technically. Tony, winners, third place in the Como Cup. The Celtic's goal came from Austin Trusty, cancelling out an Al-Ahli goal in the first half. Tony, what were your general impressions on the match this evening?
First half was a non-event, John. I don't think Celtic got forward or mustered an attack of repute, did they? And it all changed in the second half when Shinya Matsuda came on. And, a few things impressed me. I've been impressed by Austin Trusty during this pre-season. Thought he's shown up really well, took his goal very well. I think they had an out ball when Shinya Matsuda came on. And I don't care what MD says, that goal would have counted had Marco Tillier seen the pass, the 3 days before, same time that you and I saw it. And it's the behaviour, John. It's that run and finish from Shinya Matsuda that really impressed me. And so I thought the second half was excellent. Really enjoyed the second half. First half, just felt Celtic weren't at the races at all.
Yeah, the first half was poor. I felt Al-Ahli had good control in that first half, and Celtic really struggled, I think, to find their way into the game. And I thought the first goal was pretty poor one to concede. I thought Sinisalo should have done better for it, in my opinion. Don't know how you feel about that. It just seemed to go in a little too easily for my liking. But yeah, as people are mentioning in the live chat, hello to everyone joining us late this evening. Celtic were much better in that second half. I think Al-Ahli made more substitutions initially than Celtic, and I think Celtic just grew into the game a little bit better. Overall, I think pre-season's been a decent exercise, Tony. We know the issues with the squad. We don't need to go into that tonight. But we're prepared for next week's opener against St Mirren, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I would. Yeah, you've just touched on it there. We know this squad needs, replenished. We need quality players brought in. But we get all that. But for me, I'd like to focus on the positives. For me, during some of the pre-season, one of them has been Trusty. I've been really impressed by Hayato and Amura, I have to say. I think he's got a quick brain, John, and he's got quick feet. And he was in a kind of more inverted role tonight because he was drifting into the midfield a lot. He's picking up a lot of ball. And, everybody knows he's going to be kind of Kieran Tierney's understudy. But, I like the look of him, John. I like what he's brought to the table so far. And I think he's given the manager some food for thought. Yamada coming on, everybody's desperate to see Yamada, and I think he made the impact that we all would have hoped for tonight, John.
And so are you thinking Anamura's just, you're happy if he's going to be the backup for Kieran Tierney, or are you still feeling like Celtic needs something more there?
I'm happy if he's the backup, I have to say. And I agree with you about the goal. I don't know if Sinisalo did it kind of bounced off the greasy surface, but he should be doing better because, it was a decent enough connection, but normally with those connections with a scissor kick, there's a pile driver, but I don't think it went, it arrived at great speed, John. So I was a bit disappointed in Sinisalo for that as well, I have to say. But is that us being nitpicking,
Yeah, there's an element of that. And obviously he made a good stop in the penalty shootout as well, Tony. It was Sinisalo who a good stop, and then Shinya Matsuda actually scored the winning penalty, which will be a wee confidence boost for him. It's not the biggest moment of his career by any means, but I agree with you. I thought you looked decent in that second half coming into the game and didn't look out of place at all, and gave Celtic something a little bit different in attack.
We had an out ball, John. It just wasn't sticking in the first half. Johnny Kenny, he tries hard, and I get all that, but you need the ball to stick up there. But Shinya Matsuda gave you, and then one of the first things he does is run through, and a really intelligent run. John, I watch strikers and their behaviours and what they do, and then when the ball arrived at his feet, his first instinct was to put it in the net, and he buried it really well under Mendy. I was cursing Tilio because I was shouting, play the pass, play the pass. I mean, long before I saw your man, because I think at one point, if you look at that move, John, Yamada's pointing, and if you're pointing to somebody, you're pointing to somebody to say, play it in there, and he delayed, and in the split second delay led to him being offside, and that annoys me. That's just not being switched on, isn't it? Not being in somebody's wavelength,
And And what are the thoughts on Marco Tellio then? Because I didn't think it was a great night for Marco Tellio, and I wouldn't be surprised if we might not see Tellio again in a Celtic shirt. Not just because of the night, but just the direction of travel this summer. I don't think he's really stepped up and consider, put himself forward to be a depth player for Celtic or a starter for Celtic. And there's a lot of chat that he's going to be heading out either on loan or a permanent move of some sort to another European club. And that looks like it'll be the best thing for him and for Celtic, really.
I was so surprised to see when the starting lineup, John. When that starting lineup flashed up, I thought he was meant to be going to Rapid Vienna, and that had all been agreed. But I think he showed you why he could be heading to Rapid Vienna, didn't he? Because even if you're busting a gut to impress there, John, and it's your last chance saloon in terms of trying to maybe salvage something or say to the manager, I'm still around, I can do this. You play that pass, Celtic win that game in normal time. You show up because he saw a lot of ball, but he wasted a lot of ball, I have to say. For me, anyway. Yeah. That was my, and I think you're right. I think a parting of the ways seems inevitable and seems the right thing for both Celtic and Tillio.
Celtic's goal came through Austin Trusty, as I mentioned. It was a set piece kind of routine. It went to the back post from a corner. James Forrest kind of side footed it back into his path, and a decent finish from Trusty. Yeah, Trusty, I think, has had a good summer for Austin Trusty. Not just because of his goal this evening. I think he was good defensively this evening too. He obviously had a good game against Newcastle as well. It's looking like the Trusty and Carter Vickers is going to be the starting centre-back pair for the start of the Scottish Premiership season at this point. I can't see Scales ahead of him right now, can you?
No, and I like Trusty's attitude. He doesn't read the mood music, or if he does read the mood music, he doesn't hear it, John. Because everybody's saying we need another central defender. We probably do. But he's like, nope, I'm the man. I can do this. Making like comments like Celtic can live with, some of the best teams in the world, playing like they did against Newcastle, all that kind of stuff. So he's a pretty confident guy, and I quite like that. But I want my players to, if they're going to talk the talk, John, they're going to have to walk the walk for me. And the past couple of games he has, what I've witnessed from Austin Trusty is a man who can cement his place alongside Cameron Carter-Vickers if he keeps playing like that. And he's shown as well during pre-season he's got an eye for goal. And I'm happy with that. And I just hope because I think there's a player there, but there was clearly something, a circuit not connecting, because he lost his place 2 or 3 times to Liam Scales over the course of last season. And it was that inconsistency that obviously bugged the manager and plagued them. It plagued the player for making gathering a consistent runner for him. And every time he seemed to be taking a step forward, he would take 2 back because the manager would displace him and dislodge him in favour of Liam Scales. And yet he continued to confound supporters and manager alike by playing as well as he did in the likes of Bergamo and Munich. And you turn around and you say, that's the Austin Trusty I want to see. That's the Austin Trusty, the one against Newcastle, the one tonight. If he can just bring that level of consistency and maturity into his play, Johnny, he can be the starter alongside Cameron Carter-Vickers, and it'll take either a new signing or a decent defender to come in and dislodge him. That's the way he has to think, because he certainly talks that. He talks that talk, John, but sometimes on the football park he doesn't produce it.
So what's the starting? Are you wanting Shinya Matsuda to now start next week against St Mirren? Is this what's going on in your head? Where do you think the manager will kind of fall down on this? I would be surprised if Shinya Matsuda started against St Mirren, but that might be the front 3 that people are calling for at the moment, just because they like the look of Yamada. He does not really done anything to impress this summer. There's going to be a question mark there this week, I think, in the minds of supporters, if not Rodgers.
Why not, John? I liked what Yamada brought there. Why not? I mean, what have you got to lose? You've tried a combination of Ida and Kenny, and neither of them have convinced. That guy's come on a 45-minute cameo, and you've seen a couple, you've glimpsed a couple of things where you say to yourself, you know what, you could be good. You don't want to pin any labels on him and say this or that, but give him his chance. Just tucked his penalty away with aplomb. Should have had a goal if it wasn't for Taylor delaying the pass, and that would have been a really good goal. So I think you'll be feeling pretty confident, and I think if he got the nod, I think he wouldn't let anybody down. And I'm of the opinion, do you know what? Yeah, let him hit the ground running. So I would start him. I can't speak for the manager, but I've seen enough to say, do you know what? You probably want a start. Go see what you can do.
And that would make it a starting 11 next week potentially of Schmeichel with Johnston, Carter Vickers, Trusty, Kieran Tierney, Callum McGregor, Benjamin Nigren, Ray Hotate. A bit of debate on the wing, but probably James Forrest, Isa Maid on either side, and then whoever the manager goes for as striker, Ida or Yamada. As a starting 11, it's a strong enough starting 11, I think, for the start of the Scottish Premiership. We know the squad issues. We've talked about this at length, so we're not going to go into it now, but a little bit of depth there, and people will start to feel a bit better. A bit of quality added to that, people will start to feel a bit better. But listen, folks, this was a short and sweet source tonight. We just wanted to come on and give a reaction quickly to the match. We'll be back with much more chat, much more in-depth chat on Monday morning with the return of the morning briefing. We thank you for joining us live. We thank you for joining us in the comments if you're coming to this a bit later. A fairly positive evening. I think, slight positives here and there, Tony. I think that's what we're getting at. The conclusion of tonight, decent showing from Trusty, decent showing from Yamada, decent showing from Inamura. And the rest, as we know, Celtic's depth maybe isn't quite there. But that's for another day, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly my takeaways from it, John. Without a doubt. We finished third in the Cobo Cup. We didn't get the wooden spoon. Let's put it that way. So okay. That's fair enough.
Okay, thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll be back on Monday morning and lots more Celtic chat then. So join us next time on The Celtic Way.